Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today, we're going to be looking at Matthew 17.
Oh, that's a good one.
It is. This chapter has, like, a little bit of everything, you know?
Yeah.
We've got mountaintop experiences, desperate dads,
Trish playing ADM.
fish that play ATM, and some pretty big questions about,
Faith.
faith. Like, what can it really do?
Big questions.
Yeah. It's almost like a greatest hits album for Matthew's Gospel.
I like that.
So, are you ready to see what ancient wisdom we can unearth today?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Okay, so let's start with that mountaintop moment,
Okay.
the Transfiguration.
Yes.
Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up this, like, really high mountain.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, boom, his appearance,
Mhm.
like, totally transforms.
It's a dramatic scene.
Yeah. Glowing face, dazzling white clothes, and then,
Moses and Elijah show up.
I know. What do you make of that guest list?
Well, you have to remember who this gospel is written for.
Okay, yeah.
A Jewish audience.
Right.
And to them, Moses represents the law.
Right.
You know, those 10 commandments.
Yo.
And Elijah represents the prophets.
Oh, okay.
It's like the foundation of their faith.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So seeing them with Jesus, suggests he's not just another prophet,
Right.
but the fulfillment of everything they stood for.
So it's like saying he's the ultimate VIP.
Exactly. And then to make things even more dramatic, a bright cloud appears.
Oh, wow.
And a voice booms out, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him."
Wow.
God himself affirming Jesus' divine identity.
You'd think after that kind of confirmation, the disciples would be ready for, like, anything.
You would think so, yeah.
But then Jesus tells them to keep it a secret.
Right.
Why all the hush-hush?
That's a good question. I think it might have been about managing expectations.
Okay.
You know, back then people were expecting a Messiah who would overthrow the Romans.
Yeah.
The Transfiguration could easily be mistaken for a power grab.
Right.
Right. So maybe Jesus wanted to avoid that.
So it was about, like, protecting his message.
Yes. Letting people understand his purpose on his own terms.
Gotcha.
It could also have been about preparing the disciples.
Oh.
They were about to witness his suffering and death.
Right.
This glimpse of his glory might have helped them hold on to their faith.
During the tough times ahead.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what must have been going through their minds, as they came down from that mountain.
I know, right? Well, we know they were still grappling with some things.
Yeah.
They even questioned Jesus about the prophecy that Elijah must return before the Messiah.
Although they literally just saw Elijah hanging out with Jesus.
Yeah.
Were they not paying attention?
Well, it shows they were still clinging to a traditional understanding of the prophecy.
Okay.
It's a reminder that even when we see things with our own eyes,
Mm-hmm.
we might need help connecting the dots
Right.
and understanding the deeper meaning.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Speaking of needing help, the next scene is a total shift in mood.
Okay.
We go from a mountaintop revelation to a desperate plea for healing.
Yeah.
A father comes to Jesus begging him to heal his son, who's possessed by a demon.
Oh, wow.
The boy's having seizures, putting himself in danger.
Oh, man.
Imagine the father's anguish.
I know, just the desperation.
And here we see the theme of faith, take center stage.
Sure.
The father says he took his son to the disciples,
Uh-huh.
but they couldn't heal him.
Oh, wow.
Jesus, clearly frustrated, calls out the faithless generation,
Yeah.
and then heals the boy with a single command.
What a powerful contrast.
Yeah,
The disciples had seen miracles, but still didn't have the faith to, like, pull this off.
right.
Jesus, on the other hand, shows how much faith can achieve.
Even if it's as small as a mustard seed.
Right. And Jesus really drives this point home when the disciples ask him privately why they couldn't heal the boy.
Yeah, good point.
He tells them it was because of their unbelief, saying, "If ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you."
Powerful words.
Wait, is he literally saying we can move mountains with faith?
It's a metaphor,
Okay.
but a powerful one. He's emphasizing the potential of faith to overcome seemingly impossible obstacles.
So it's not just about believing,
Right.
but about the actions that come with it.
Absolutely. And he also mentions prayer and fasting
Okay.
as essential for dealing with these kinds of situations.
Sure.
True faith isn't just blind belief.
Yeah.
It's a practice,
Okay.
a way of connecting with God and seeking his guidance.
So it's a combination of belief and action
Yeah.
that kind of unlocks that potential.
Exactly.
It's interesting how even after this, like, display of incredible power,
Yeah.
Jesus knows his path leads to suffering.
Right.
Once again, he predicts his death and resurrection.
Mm.
And this time, the disciples are the different reaction.
Hmm. Maybe seeing the Transfiguration,
Yeah.
that raw divine power,
Uh.
made the idea of his suffering and death even harder to swallow.
Or maybe it was finally hitting them.
It could be.
You know, the reality of what Jesus was going to face,
Yeah.
the sacrifice he was about to make. It's heavy stuff.
It is, yeah.
And just when you think the emotional roller coaster is over, we get this intriguing story about the temple tax.
Oh, yeah.
Tax collectors approach Peter, assuming Jesus will pay the tax.
Right.
Which all Jewish men had to.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where things take a turn for the bizarre.
Right. Well, it's certainly a story that sticks with you.
Yeah.
Jesus has this thought-provoking conversation with Peter about who pays taxes to kings.
Yeah.
He points out that kings don't tax their own children,
Right.
only strangers.
But he's basically saying, hey, I'm the son of God. I'm exempt.
Right.
But then he does something totally unexpected. He tells Peter to go fishing and says the first fish he catches will have a coin in its mouth enough to cover both their taxes.
Damn, what a story, right?
A fish with a coin? Come on. That's wild.
It is wild. And it leads to some interesting questions.
Yeah.
On one level, it's a demonstration of Jesus's authority over nature.
Okay.
He can provide for their needs in a way that defies logic.
Right.
But it could also be a lesson in humility.
Okay.
In avoiding unnecessary conflict.
Okay.
Even though Jesus is exempt,
Right.
he pays to avoid causing offense.
So it's not just about power.
Right.
It's about using it wisely.
Yes.
And with compassion.
Exactly.
This chapter really is packed with thought-provoking moments. I think we need to pause here and let those ideas sink in. What stands out to you so far?
For me, it's how these seemingly random events, you know, the Transfiguration, the healing, the tax payment, all come together to paint this rich picture of who Jesus is.
And what about for our listeners? What do you think someone engaging with this chapter for the first time might take away from it?
That's a great question. I think the biggest takeaway is the power of faith, but not faith as some passive belief. It's an active force that can move mountains, heal the sick, even provide in miraculous ways. But it's a faith cultivated through prayer, fasting, a deep connection with God. It challenges us to step outside our comfort zones, to face our doubts, and to believe in the impossible.
That's beautiful. It's a reminder that faith isn't just believing, it's living that belief, letting it transform our lives and the world around us.
Absolutely, and I think that message is as important today as it was 2,000 years ago.
So true. Well, we've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much more to uncover in Matthew 17. Let's dive back in after a quick break.
I'm looking forward to it. One thing that strikes me about this chapter is how often people just misunderstand what's happening.
Yeah, like they're not getting it.
Like the disciples struggling with the Elijah prophecy,
Right.
Peter assuming Jesus would pay the tax. It's a recurring theme, you know?
So it's about challenging those assumptions, like being open to a different way of seeing things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even those closest to Jesus who
Yeah.
saw him perform miracles firsthand
Yeah.
didn't always grasp the full meaning.
So it's a reminder to, like,
Yeah.
approach these texts with humility.
Absolutely. Recognize there's always more to learn.
Always more to discover.
Yeah.
It's like we're on this journey of understanding, you know,
Right alongside the disciples?
right alongside the disciples.
Yeah.
Sometimes stumbling,
Yeah.
but hopefully growing in our faith
Absolutely.
and insight as we go.
It's one reason why these stories still resonate with people.
Centuries later.
You know, they reflect our own struggles with faith,
Yeah.
our own desire to understand life's mysteries.
And the divine. That fish story really gets you thinking, doesn't it?
It really does.
It reminds me of another fascinating element in this chapter,
Yeah.
the emphasis on the power of faith.
Right.
But as we talked about before, it's not just about believing.
Right.
It's about the actions that come with it.
Jesus isn't advocating for blind faith. He emphasizes prayer, fasting, seeking a deeper connection with God. It's about cultivating that trust and allowing it to guide our actions.
Okay, that makes me think of, people who achieve what seem like impossible feats,
Uh-huh.
athletes breaking records, scientists making groundbreaking discoveries. It's like they tap into this incredible inner strength and determination.
Hmm.
Is that what Jesus is getting at with that move mountains analogy?
I think there's a parallel there. The mustard seed,
Yes.
tiny as it is,
Uh-huh.
has the potential to grow into something massive,
Right.
something that provides shade, shelter, nourishment. In the same way, our faith, even if it feels small, can grow and have a profound impact. It might not be about moving literal mountains,
Right.
but facing a fear, pursuing a dream, or simply believing in our own potential.
So it's about looking beyond the surface, seeing the possibilities, even when things feel challenging.
Absolutely. It's about trusting in that potential, both within ourselves and in the power of faith, to help us overcome obstacles.
Okay, so we've got this overarching theme of faith.
Yeah.
But then there's these specific stories within Matthew 17 that highlight different aspects of it.
Right.
We've got the Transfiguration, which is almost like, a glimpse into the divine power of Jesus.
Right.
Then there's the healing of the boy, which shows how faith can overcome even, demonic forces.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that fish coin story, a story that's just begging for some deeper interpretation.
I think each story offers a unique perspective on what faith can look like and what it can accomplish. The Transfiguration shows us the awe-inspiring potential of faith. The healing emphasizes its power to bring about restoration and wholeness. And the fish story, well, it highlights resourcefulness, trusting in God's provision, even when it comes in unexpected ways.
It's interesting how these stories,
Yeah.
although rooted in a specific time and context,
Yeah.
still manage to speak to us today.
Yeah.
What do you think is the reason for that?
I think it's because they tap into universal human experiences. We all face challenges. We all have moments of doubt. We all long for something beyond ourselves. And these stories offer us hope. They offer us guidance. They remind us that we're not alone in those struggles.
They provide a framework for how to navigate those challenges,
Yeah,
how to lean into our faith when things get tough.
exactly. And they also invite us to look beyond the surface,
Uh-huh.
to search for deeper meaning, to ask questions and wrestle with these timeless themes.
Like their conversation starter,
Yeah.
a way to connect with something bigger than ourselves.
That's a beautiful way to put it, and I think that's one of the most important things about engaging with these texts. It's not just about reading them passively, it's about allowing them to spark something within us, to ignite our curiosity, to inspire us to live more meaningful lives.
It's about making those ancient stories relevant to our own lives, finding those nuggets of wisdom that can guide us on our own journeys.
Absolutely, and I think that's what makes this chapter, and really the entire Bible, so enduring. It's not just a collection of stories, it's a living, breathing text that continues to speak to us across cultures and across time.
It's a reminder that even though these stories were written centuries ago,
Yeah.
the human experiences they depict, the struggles, the hopes, the fears,
Uh-huh.
they're all still relevant today.
And they can offer us comfort, guidance, and inspiration no matter what challenges we're facing in our own lives.
We've talked a lot about the power of faith,
Right.
but what about those who might be struggling with doubt?
Yeah.
Where does doubt fit into all of this?
That's an important question, and one that I think is woven throughout these stories. The disciples themselves, even though they witnessed Jesus performing miracles, still experienced moments of doubt.
Like when they couldn't heal the boy?
Yeah, exactly.
It seemed like their lack of faith was a real obstacle.
It was, but even in that moment, Jesus didn't condemn them for their doubt. Instead, he used it as an opportunity to teach them, to show them the importance of strengthening their faith.
So doubt isn't necessarily the opposite of faith,
Right.
but maybe a part of the journey.
I think that's a profound insight. Doubt can be a catalyst for growth, a way to deepen our understanding and to wrestle with those big questions that ultimately lead us closer to truth.
It's like doubt pushes us to examine our beliefs.
To refine them, to make them stronger.
And I think that's a healthy and even necessary part of any faith journey.
It's about acknowledging those doubts, not suppressing them,
Yeah.
and using them as fuel for exploration and growth.
So it's about finding that balance,
Yes.
that space where faith and doubt can coexist,
Right.
where we can acknowledge the things we don't understand
Yeah.
while still holding on to the things we believe in.
It's a delicate dance, for sure. But I think it's in that tension, that space between certainty and uncertainty, that we often experience the most profound growth and transformation.
And that's a powerful reminder for all of us.
Ab-
No matter where we are on our own faith journeys, we don't have to have it all figured out. It's okay to have doubts. It's okay to ask questions. In fact, it's those questions that can often lead us to deeper understanding and a more authentic faith.
I completely agree. The journey of faith is a lifelong process, and doubt is an integral part of that process.
It's not about reaching a destination.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey itself,
Yeah,
with all its twists and turns, its moments of clarity, and its periods of confusion.
exactly. And it's in those moments of confusion, those times when we're wrestling with doubt, that we often discover the most profound truths.
I love that perspective. It takes the pressure off of having to have everything figured out
Right.
and allows us to approach faith with a sense of curiosity and wonder.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes exploring these ancient texts so enriching. They invite us to engage in that process of questioning, of searching, of discovering.
And as we discussed earlier, those discoveries aren't just about understanding the text itself,
Yeah.
but about applying those insights to our own lives,
Right.
finding those nuggets of wisdom that can help us navigate the challenges we face, the relationships we build, and the choices we make.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why these stories have stood the test of time. They offer timeless truths that are as relevant today as they were centuries ago.
It's like they're a roadmap for navigating the human experience,
Yeah.
a guide for living a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And I think that's what makes this deep dive into Matthew 17 so valuable. It's not just about learning about some ancient stories, it's about discovering truths that can enrich our lives today.
So true. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this chapter.
Mhm.
From mountaintop experiences
Yeah.
to desperate pleas for healing to fish that play ATM. But I think there's still one more important piece of this puzzle we need to explore.
And what would that be?
That final thought Jesus leaves the disciples with. A thought that could completely change the way we view the world around us.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. That powerful message about our role in creating a better future.
Exactly. Let's dive into that after a quick break.
I can't wait to unpack that one.
All right, so we're back and ready to unpack that final thought.
Okay.
What was it that Jesus said that was, like, so transformative?
Well, it wasn't so much a single statement,
Okay.
but more of an overall theme
Uh,
that runs through the whole chapter.
okay.
You know, it's this idea that we're not just passive observers in the world,
Mm.
but active participants in shaping our reality.
So it's not just about, like, receiving blessings or
Wow.
waiting for miracles to happen.
Right.
It's about being proactive, taking action,
Yes.
and using our faith as, like, a catalyst for change.
Exactly. Think about those disciples.
Yeah.
They weren't just sitting around,
Yeah.
waiting for Jesus to tell them what to do.
Right.
They were out there trying to heal the sick,
Mhm.
grappling with their doubts, learning from their mistakes.
It's like they were putting their faith into practice,
Yeah.
even when they weren't sure if they were doing it right.
And that's the key, isn't it? Faith isn't about perfection.
Right.
It's about showing up and doing the work,
Yeah.
even when we're feeling uncertain or afraid.
That makes me think of all those people throughout history who have,
Yeah.
fought for justice,
Yeah.
stood up for what they believed in,
Right.
even when the odds were stacked against them.
Yeah.
They didn't just sit back and hope for things to change.
Right.
They took action.
They raised their voices.
Yeah.
They made a difference.
And that's the power of this message from Matthew 17.
Yeah.
It's a call to action,
Absolutely.
an invitation to, like, step into our own power
Yes.
and to be agents of change in the world.
So it's not just about personal transformation.
Right.
It's about societal transformation as well.
It's about using our faith to make the world a better place.
Exactly. Think back to that mustard seed analogy.
Oh,
A tiny seed can grow into a massive tree,
Right.
providing shade, shelter, sustenance.
Uh-huh.
In the same way, even small acts of faith, small acts of courage and compassion
Yeah.
can have a ripple effect,
Right.
inspiring change and transforming communities.
It's a reminder that we're not powerless.
Right.
We don't have to just sit back and accept the status quo.
We can be agents of change, even in seemingly small ways.
I think that's one of the most hopeful messages we can take away from this chapter.
Absolutely.
It's a call to action, an invitation to tap into the power within us, that power of faith,
Yes.
to make a difference in our own lives and the world around us.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Matthew 17,
Yeah.
seems like we uncovered a lot more than just, a few Bible stories.
It does, doesn't it?
We explored the power of faith to transform not only ourselves,
Right.
but the world around us.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has.
And I think it's a reminder that these ancient texts,
Yeah.
These stories that have been passed down for centuries
Uh-huh.
still have the power to speak to us today, to
Yeah.
challenge us, comfort us, and inspire us to live more meaningful lives.
I completely agree. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank
I
you.
hope it's sparked your curiosity.
And giving you some food for thought.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep believing in the power of even the smallest seed of faith